Hi everyone, I'm Jules, and today we're going to look at how COVID-19 is forcing us to change to a new normal. I'm certain you've read or heard of some great change management books like Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson and My Iceberg is Melting by John Cotter. You see, they use simple examples to show that change occurs all the time, even if we resist. When I worked on initiatives, I recall people saying yes to change, but what they really meant was yes to change as long as it's for someone else. You see, this pandemic hit us in November of 2019. It does not discriminate and it will not go away if you ignore it. In fact, if the virus did have the ability to communicate vocally, it would encourage us to go about our normal way of living so it can propagate faster. Coronavirus is definitely a game changer. The whole world is affected, we are going through unprecedented changes, yet everyone reacts differently to this pandemic. So how does change management look? Here, we've identified three key players. The virus itself is the change. The doctors, scientists, and governments studying this virus are the change agents. They have the difficult task of figuring it out, informing the public, and attempting to contain the outburst by teaching us how to protect ourselves. Lastly, we have the subjects, and that would be us, as we are the ones accepting or rejecting the change. So how are we, the population, accepting the change to the new normal? Let's use the DOI, or diffusion of innovation, also known as the law of diffusion, which was established by E.M. Rogers back in 1962 to answer this question. DOI is used to see how well an idea spreads to the masses and gets adopted. It is about how well you relate to the message that gains traction, altering the way people see things. The one vehicle that change agents have in their arsenal is communication. So how well they communicate will make a huge impact on how effective you will be in accepting and adopting their measures against the virus. The DOI chart identifies the 5 adopter types, where each section of the curve describes a group of individuals. First come the innovators, and these are the people who are willing to take risks. Following them are the early adopters, who are judicious decision-making individuals. And after that comes the early majority, who follow the early adopters' instincts. Now, following the early majority comes the late majority, who are skeptical to change, but will eventually change once they see other people doing so. And lastly come the laggards, who are averse to risk and change. Now, when the change agents are conducting their change management, they will use methods like persuasion. And this is where they will persuade you by showing people on ventilators and how quickly the virus spreads. This practical approach will get your attention and arouse your interest, enticing you to actively seek more information. Another tactic that they use is decision. Here, they will weigh the advantages and disadvantages of the virus and decide what to let you know in order to contain the outburst. At this point, they are also looking at how well people have taken to their communications. They can also use implementation, where they determine what measures need to be put into place to contain the virus. A great example of this is wearing a mask, and lately people are also wearing goggles or visors. You can see the adoption rate by looking at who adopted the mask, washed their hands, practiced social distancing, and quarantined as recommended. The places where the implementation has failed is basically shown by the number of cases increasing due to parties and crowding without protection. The last method is confirmation. This is when they finalize their decision on measures that the population will use and hope that we will adopt them. Unfortunately, we have not yet reached this point since the experts are still learning about the virus. We will attain it once they know all there is to know and can answer the question, why are the people who don't have the virus getting together, and next thing you know, they are all infected? From your end, using the COVID-19 pandemic as an example, we can help you understand how you have adopted the change management. Clearly, this virus only cares about spreading and staying alive. So hopefully, you are on the side wanting to eradicate the virus and stay alive. Using the law of diffusion, we can measure when you decide to believe the change agents and follow their safety protocols. Despite all the great work these experts are doing, we still see people believing this is all a bad joke. So where do you land? Starting at innovators, besides the doctors and experts at the forefront of this pandemic, were you also part of this bracket? Did you watch what was happening in China and Europe, listen to the WHO that declared it a pandemic at the end of February 2020, and started self-quarantining? If you did, then you are in this category. Now let's look at the early adopters. In March 2020, your government asked everyone to start quarantining at home for 3 weeks. Everything except essential services were closed. Did you believe the experts at this point, listen to the recommendations, and quarantine yourself? If so, you are in this bracket of adoption. Following them comes early majority. It's now the end of March, beginning of April 2020. You continued watching the news and seeing that others were following the government's quarantine measures. Now, you see the numbers of deaths occurring at the epicenters around the country, and it makes you believe that this is no longer a joke. You decide to quarantine yourself, and when you go out, you wear a mask or protective gear. If this is where you were then, in that case, you would fall in the bracket of the early majority. Following them comes a late majority. You don't believe it's going to happen to you, so you go about doing what you do. The communications are not working, but then you find out someone close to you has the virus. Worse, they're on a ventilator. Well, now that it's hit home, you start thinking this may be more serious than you once thought. Lastly, come the laggers. You don't believe any of the news they're saying, thinking that they're making it worse than it really is. You definitely don't care to change your way of life. You're your own constitutional right. You walk into stores without a mask. Essentially, you're COVID-19's best friend. Now, unfortunately, chances are the only way you will change is when you contract the disease and are fighting for your life. You may be lucky and come out of it alive, or you may just become a statistic by dying. So, please bear in mind that this change has affected your way of life, and the choices you will make have an impact on your life as well as those of others. This virus has no intention of going away just because you ignore it. At the end of the day, you can choose to be on the side of the virus or on that of the doctors. COVID-19 is sticking around for the long run, so until a vaccine is made available, where you decide to be on the curve will dictate your livelihood. So stay safe. I hope that this information was helpful to you. For more resources, visit our website at www.azconsulting-sp.com. Thank you.